Welcome to Access, brought to you by Crypto.com. Matthew Lloyd and Damian Barrett with you. A big round two to get through with a couple of surprising results.
Oh, St Kilda and the Kangaroos were outstanding in their wins, and what a season-defining win it was for the Sydney Swans, Damo. But I can't wait to talk about Sam Walsh and how Michael Voss can use him better to get him back to his best.
We're going straight to the boardroom agenda today, Lordo. It's your old club. It's Essendon. There are problems everywhere. There's problems on field, there's problems off field. I'll get you to take us through what is going wrong in the game.
Yeah, well, number one, it'll be a really interesting meeting today. Fly-on-the-wall stuff in the auditorium, lecture theatre, where I think players and coaches need to all sit in there together and sort it out. And I think players need to be honest towards the coach, and the coaching staff need to be really honest towards the players, because I think it goes both ways. I think, number one, they aren't physically tough enough. So there's been players that would be embarrassed with not wanting, which we're about to show shortly, don't want to pick up the footy. So that's on the players. Number two, the skill level is really, really poor, which isn't to the level of quality AFL teams. So again, that's on both players and the coaching staff who deliver at that. And players need to be honest to Brad Scott and say, we are really unsure. We're really unsure of where we need to be defensively. We're not sure of our defensive structure. And so there's problems in three areas for me. Skill level, they're not tough enough, and structurally, they're not going really well. So these are fundamental problems. This is where you put it on Dylan Shield and go, you are not being hard enough. So that's the coaches can put it on the player in this situation, but then players can also put it on the coach and say, we're at sixes and sevens here. We're really unsure what you're after. And it's been like this for a number of weeks now, where, as I said, they're the worst defensive profiled side in the competition currently.
Look, as a rule, Lordo, we don't, as a duo on this show anyway, make massive statements after two matches of a new season. But we need to look at this now in the context of it being two matches into the third season of Brad Scott as coach. And I'm yet to see any form of significant improvement in this club. I'm about to get to the off-field stuff in a moment, but your comments there and the development and lack of, and even the lack of identification in talent, if we want to take it way back.
Yeah, that's right. There's problems everywhere, which is to the lack of improvement that we're seeing. It's just so inconsistent. You get excited occasionally, and then before you know it, by the end of the year, you say it's another disappointing year. And the way it started, it looks like they're worse than they were last year.
Yep. I know you sometimes think I'm overly critical of David Barrett, and look, that maybe I am, but I do go back to what he did 3 years ago, Lordo. He came in, and these are his words, I'm an agent of change. Now, he'd already been on the board for 7 years. Now we are into his third year. There's no change off-field at this footy club either. They keep talking about there being stability and the need to recontract Brad Scott up until the end of 2027. I don't know why that was done in that particular deal. I think he might be the best thing at the club for what it's worth, but nothing is changing, Lordo, at this stage under his watch, and nothing is changing. We celebrated supposedly, or the club wanted us to celebrate this change of behaviour and this tough decision to remove Jake Stringer from operations. Well, all that's done is remove 42 goals out of a season of footy, which he accumulated last year. No one else, apart from Cole Langford, who was injured in this game against the Crows, is going near that number.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I just know at the time I disagreed with you because I thought the previous administration needed to be shaken up, and David did that. But you're right, nothing has changed on field to resemble an improvement since they've all taken over.
Yep. North Melbourne, massive win yesterday against Melbourne. They took and seized every opportunity they got, Lordo. I raise that because they've been here before in recent seasons and have not taken that opportunity. But at the start of the last quarter, Tristan Cherry in the ruck just went bang, and he'd already had a good match at that point. Every player around him stepped up and they won by 10 goals.
Yeah, good point, Damo, because the week before I was disappointed in them because they should have beaten the Western Bulldogs and they conceded 3 goals in 3 minutes the week before. So
Luke Davies-Uniacke, Lordo, too, as you say, that was dominant.
Outstanding. So enjoy the win, but the next test is Adelaide in Adelaide. Then it's probably no tougher task in football. So don't have to win, but it's about the way they perform to build that consistency.
Do you see enough in that one win to think this is a corner-turning moment for this club?
It was a wonderful win, but I'm not going to go too early because I've seen those moments before. But they should only get better with what they've got at their disposal. I love who they've drafted. And Comden, the performance he had, which we'll talk about soon, that's probably the missing link in what they've needed over the last few years.
Coach speak this week is Simon Goodwin, post-match for the D's.
Oh, I think when you win the territory battle for the game and lose the score the way we did, it's something we need to keep working at. You got to acknowledge that and put your hand up and say, yeah, we're going to keep working on it. I know it's going to be a story and a narrative. It's in some ways when you're 2 weeks in and you haven't seen the change you want, everyone's going to go down that path. But we're confident with the work we've done over the summer that we'll start to see it. You know, last week we played in a pretty wet game, and tonight we were nowhere near the level around the ball to give us the looks that we'd like.
They are just words for me, Damo, because I've heard a lot of words out of Melbourne recently and nothing changes. So they had 3 more entries than North Melbourne, but could only score 9 goals. So they lose by 10 goals. And this is, and I'm a bit of a broken record on this and what they do. Like, this is just, you know, hacking the ball forward. So I look at Carlton, I look at Melbourne, and I feel like they're playing football that was 3 years ago football, where you can get away with bombing it in and just getting pressure at the fall of the ball. But teams are too good defensively now. So he played the game
particularly
of his
yesterday,
life.
Charlie Comben.
And well done to him. He played the game of his life. He was confident. But I'd love to be a defender in two, if you're just hacking the ball and kicking it in there. So it's a real concern. And it's no one, and the thing is where they need to use it better is no one worries me. So if I'm a defender going down to play on any Melbourne forward, there's nothing that scares me. So they need to use the ball far smarter than what they do, and that's on Simon Goodwin.
And Comben there, Lord, just playing in win number 6 for him personally from 30 matches. Paul Curtis getting win number 8 of 61. So good results for North Melbourne. Another big win was the Swans' effort in Perth against the Dockers. It was the first win of Dean Cox as coach, and it came on the back of this guy, Lordo, Riley Bice. We'll talk about him in a moment, but he kicked the second last goal of the game, and then the last goal, the match-winning goal, was kicked by Joel Amati. I love this moment, Lordo. He took his man Cox out of the equation and then just took the mark and then had to go back. That's not the easiest kick in that moment, and he nailed it.
Oh, what a pressure valve relief win for Dean Cox and his coaching staff, because they may well have played the best 2 sides in the comp in the first 2, in Hawthorn and the Brisbane Lions. And just to get that first win, we could look back and say, how big were those 4 points which catapulted the Sydney Swans? Because I do believe, I tipped them as my premier at the start of the year. I believe they're a top 4 side. They just need to tick over some wins early in the season until the big guns return.
Yeah, they needed that win and they got it, because they're okay in rounds 1 and 2. Chad Warner stepped up big time in the last quarter, but as did a second gamer, a 24-year-old second gamer who was playing for Werribee last year as an untried talent, Lord. I refer to Riley Bice, and this goal, not many are kicking that goal in that moment. Now, even after that, you can see what that goal has done to the score. It's got them back to within 3 points. And then moments after that, he's showing the composure of a 34-year-old.
He is, and there was a lot of panic in this game. I was critical of James Rowbottom, where he just threw it on the ball in his boot. A lot of players did do that, but when you've got someone who can kick like that, and left footers don't get caught too often, and he seems to have plenty of time whenever he gets the footy.
Now, the adverse result for the Dockers in this game is the source of your Crypto.com bold call of the week.
Yeah, it is, Damo, and it centres around the Fremantle coach Justin Longmuir and how he's in a fight for his coaching career. They play the Derby this week, and there's no bigger game over in Western Australia than that. He's got everything at his disposal, Justin Longmuir, and he added Shea Bolton, who is, in my eyes, the recruit of the year. He had a poor game yesterday, didn't seem to fit in, but when you are given Luke Jackson, and you can complement that with Shea Bolton, and then you've got Brayshaw and Sarong with that, and then you've got Tracy.
And the back line's very sound.
Back line sound, forward line has it now with Amos and Tracy. He's got everything, but still to see such a dour affair yesterday in Perth, where they did miss opportunities. They should have won the game, where Boss missed some opportunities, but I think there's still something not quite right there. With the handbrake still seems to be on. They don't get the results they should get. And no doubt my bold call is that he's fighting for his career over the next month at the Fremantle Dockers.
Yeah. Another club that's in the doldrums at the moment, 0-2 to start the year, is Carlton. And Lordo, you've got some concerns about Sam Walsh.
I have, and I want to show Sam at his best. So it just brings joy to me watching Sam Walsh in his prime. This is 2021 clips where Sam is out in the open spaces, and he was the #1 draft pick for a reason, because he's a workhorse. But it's moments like this, so I want to see him in space where, and I'm saying put him back out to a wing. I know everyone wants to develop into that inside midfielder, but it doesn't suit everyone. But so that's Sam Walsh at his best, the running power. And this is Sam Walsh at his worst, where it's just, he picks up the footy. He's not the best skilled player. There's better skilled players, but it's just throwing the ball on the boot in tight, under pressure. So I want to see Michael Voss use him and Hollands. Hollands is on a half-back flank, so that should suit him, but get him back to his best. So that's on him, that last disposal, Damo. But
I reckon most of this is on him, Lordo.
Yeah, it is. But again, he's in and around traffic, which isn't suiting him and his game plan.
Major issues there, and you even early in the piece have not got him in their top 4 players in the comp, which is an indictment on someone with so much talent.
Yeah, and I think he can get back to that by changing his role.
Yeah. Contrast with Carlton and Hawthorn, who we're now about to look at now in the closing doors segment. We're referring to the depth. I wrote about Cam Mackenzie on the weekend. It's no secret that he's a good player, but I just refer to him, Lloyd, as one of many Hawks players who don't get their headlines and yet are, I reckon, first pick every single week on the magnetic board there at Hawthorn.
Yeah, this guy's an A-grader. I think he'll be an All-Australian in his time at Hawthorn. And he's a top 10 draft pick, so people at home will be going, well, he should be when you get drafted top 10. But he would go into another AFL team and a lot more would be expected of him. But I think they've got so much there that he's just been able to develop at his own rate.
Yep.
And he's doing that really, really nicely.
And he knows his place in this superstar team, doesn't he?
He does.
And he's doing everything right.
And Josh Ward is fighting hard, and that's the great thing about Hawthorn. Well, Ward's just developing at his own rate as well. The Wizard's not expected to be the number one small forward because he's got Dylan Moore around him. And that brings us to Josh Battle, Damo, which is doing amazing things for Hawthorn as well.
Well, it is. It's just changing the whole dynamic of not just him, the way he plays. And we'll take a look at what he's doing because you've seen a difference in him in 2 matches, and particularly the second of those 2, to what you saw as an 8-9 year player at St Kilda.
Yeah, he was a wonderful player at St Kilda, but I felt like he would crab the ball sideways a lot. And what I've liked about him at Hawthorn through the way they play the game is he's taking the game forward and he's being a more damaging player than what I saw. And the luxury it's done, Damo, is James Sicily, like every other club, they wouldn't have the luxury to do what they're doing. And the man he kicked it to is Weddle. They're in the same boat where they were only 5 points up at three-quarter time. But Sam Mitchell can still go, OK, go forward.
And he takes 2 clunks.
Yeah, so I think that the depth that we're talking about through Mackenzie and Ward and the midfield is also every other part of the ground as well.
And Blake Hardwick too. I know it's not the first time he's played as a forward, but kicking 2 goals early to set up that dominance.
Yeah, most clubs would need him in defence, but they can play him forward as
well. Geelong's depth, is that of concern? I raise it because they're going to manage Bailey Smith this year. He was laid out on the weekend. I think it'll be done semi-regularly this year, Lordo, as he endures this return from an knee injury. But this is the big worry. It's a PCL damage to the right knee of Cam Stewart there, and Tom Stewart maybe. And look, they were thrown with the dynamic loss there.
Yeah, he's worth 3 players, and what I mean by that is he beats his own man and he protects everyone else. So it's as big a loss as there is in football, losing Tom Stewart. Yeah, and when we talk about depth, Bailey Smith, losing that type of player put so much pressure on Max Holmes, who got tagged by Marcus Windhager, losing Tom Stewart. So, yeah, I'm not sure how deep they bat in comparison to Hawthorn, but that's a significant loss.
They were fantastic, the Saints, weren't they?
Yeah,
the way they took the game on early and they held on and had to show some composure late. But it was set up on the back of some senior players. And one you want to look at, Lordo, is Jack McRae, who has always been able to get plenty of the ball. If there's been a criticism, and I think there has been, it's been for lack of proper use with it.
That's right. Like he's been a 2 or 3 time All-Australian, but it's just he's been an accumulator. But I've liked moments like this. The more he can do of this, the more we will appreciate Jack McRae for how hard he works and how much ball he wins. If he can be as damaging as he's been in the first couple of weeks, which has been good. And well done to Ross Lyon and the Saints. That was a brilliant win. They executed his plan perfectly and took all the strengths away from Geelong.
Well, one thing that should happen is for there to be no games at the Gabba at midday, or 12:10 to be specific, in a March and April part of the AFL season. I raise this because this is a welfare issue. Now, people might say harden up when Liam Baker's there on the bench with the ice jackets on and other people making comments on it. But this has been a narrative now for the best part of 30 seasons at the Gabba at this time of year. I remember Marcus Ashcroft, who at the time was probably the fittest player in the competition, losing 6 kilograms of weight in one game at the same time frame in an afternoon. This is an AFL Players Association matter, and I think they should get involved in it.
Has there been some complaints you've heard out of
this? Look, no one this day and age makes big comments publicly, but there's some concern about what those players were subjected to yesterday from both sides. I know that to be a fact.
They didn't start well, the Brisbane Lions, very much unlike Brisbane. West Coast, I thought, is this going to be the upset of the season? I thought Richmond was a big upset in round 1, but this would have been even bigger. The West Coast Eagles beating the Brisbane Lions. They were sloppy early, and it can happen. So I'm going to put this on the radar that because I've been fortunate enough to be part of a premiership team, and in 01, the year after, we were slack in areas, and we would start poorly, and we'd get off to poor starts, but we always believed and had the arrogance and confidence that we could get back from anywhere. So
Well, you did even against North Melbourne, 69 points down.
Yes, but then it caught up with us when we confronted a Brisbane Lions team.
Are you seeing something like this? And I raise this because Dane Zorko's seeing something along what you're talking about here, and he's prepared to express it in a very demonstrative way against the current captain.
Yeah, it's
Harris
too
Andrews.
early to know if it's a trend or not because it's only round 2. But I love this because you've got so different personality types as your leaders. So if Harris Andrews was like Dane Zorko, they'd just be at each other's throats. But Harris Andrews was so composed, let him speak, and they responded as a good side does.
It's a great setup, isn't it?
it was.
Yeah. Now, we're always learning, or at least we're trying to, Lordo. What did you learn out of round 2?
What I learned is that Adelaide have a great age demographic, so the time is right. They used to be dour players who used to hack the ball. Now they've got class everywhere in the perfect age demographic. West Coast, that's the type of loss you like. A gritty loss. They couldn't have done much more, just couldn't go on with it and play for long enough. And footy's scariest matchup in football is Sam Darcy. And what I love about him is he keeps his opponent away for a long, long time and then goes back at the ball. So it's an art that not many players this young know, but he does it really, really well. And Darcy Moore didn't play the worst game.
Oh, I thought he played well.
He played pretty well.
And he still allowed him 6 shots at goal.
6 shots at goal. So he's smart beyond his years, Sam Darcy.
Yep. I've got the Tigers being brought back to earth. I like what they did in the last quarter against Port Adelaide, but to me it's the reality check after the big win against Carlton. It's going to be a long year, and that's not to be a negative on what they're doing. Connor Rozee thought it was the best on-ground effort for him. It needs to be a form of benchmark for him. It wasn't a good year in his first year as captaincy last year from a form perspective, and you've already touched on my other learning, Lordo. The derby this week for Justin Longmuir particularly, it's defining.
Oh, it's super. They just have to win. There's no other angle than that. And win well.
Yep. I think I got one back on you in the tips on the Crypto.com leadership board, leaderboard, Lordo. I managed to tip the Swans and you didn't, so I'm back at least equal with you. But Chad Wingard's got us covered again.
He's picked up another one, Chad. He's on fire. I might have to try and sneak into his office and find his tips here at the AFL because he's on fire.
Thank you for watching Access for Crypto.com, and we'll be back next Monday.